The storm didn't roll in quietly. It arrived like a verdict. Rain hammered the city in relentless sheets, flooding intersections, swallowing gutters, turning side streets into rivers. Sirens echoed somewhere in the distance, muffled by thunder that cracked the sky open again and again. The kind of storm that shut everything down. The kind that made even emergency crews hesitate before rolling out. Inside St. Catherine's Hospital, the lights flickered. Generators kicked in with a low mechanical groan, and the ICU glowed in artificial white as machines hummed and beeped, keeping time with lives balanced on the edge. Nurses moved fast but spoke softly, like raising their voices might tempt fate. In bed 7 lay 8-year-old Daniel Brooks. His skin had lost its color hours ago. Dark circles sat beneath his eyes, and his small chest rose and fell with effort, each breath a negotiation. Tubes and wires surrounded him, more machine than boy now, and his mother, Sarah, stood frozen beside the bed, her hands gripping the railing as if letting go might make him disappear. Daniel had been healthy just days earlier. A scraped knee, a loose tooth, homework half-finished on the kitchen table. Then came the collapse, an undiagnosed condition, internal bleeding, a rush to the hospital, surgeons working through the night, and now this, his blood levels falling faster than they could replace them. The attending physician stepped out of the room and closed the glass door gently behind him. "We're out of compatible units," he said quietly to the nurse station. "His blood type is extremely rare. We've called every hospital within 3 counties. A younger doctor swallowed. "Flights are grounded. Roads are underwater." The physician nodded, jaw tight. "I know." Down the hall, Sarah pressed her forehead to the glass, watching her son's chest stutter as the machine breathed with him. She whispered promises she wasn't sure anyone could keep. "You're strong, Danny. You hear me?" Nurse Elena Ramirez had been in this profession long enough to recognize that look. The one doctors got when hope narrowed to a single thread. She checked the chart again. Rare blood type. No local supply. No transport possible. Then she remembered the name. It had come up months ago during a training seminar about emergency donor registries. Footnote, really. An outlier. A man with a criminal record flagged in bold letters. His name surrounded by quiet warnings. But also marked. Match confirmed. Willing donor. Elena hesitated, fingers hovering over the phone. People like him didn't come running when hospitals called. People like him had learned not to trust places like this. But the alternative was standing there and doing nothing. She stepped into the supply room, closed the door, and dialed. Mark Dalton was no stranger to storms. He had lived most of his life inside them. Some made of weather, others made of fists, engines, and bad decisions. At 46, his face carried the road map of that life. A scar along his jaw, knuckles permanently misshapen, eyes that had learned early how not to show what they felt. He stood in his garage that night, radio low, working on his bike. The rain drummed on the metal roof overhead. His leather vest hung on a hook nearby, heavy with history. When his phone buzzed, he frowned. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. Almost. "Elena Ramirez," the voice said after he answered. "I'm a nurse at St. Catherine's Hospital." Mark leaned back against the workbench, wiping his hands on a rag. Hospitals made his shoulders tense. Always had. "There's a child," she continued carefully. 8 years old. He's in critical condition. He needs blood immediately. Your blood type matches. Mark closed his eyes. Hospitals had taken something from him once. Something they couldn't give back. "My brother," he said quietly. "He died in one." There was silence on the line. Respectful. Human. "I know this is a lot to ask," Elena said. "But without this transfusion, we're out of options." Thunder rolled overhead. "How long?" Mark asked. "Minutes," she replied. "Maybe an hour." Mark looked at his bike, then at the rain beyond the open garage door. "I'm coming," he said. The engine roared to life like it had been waiting for this. Mark pulled on his helmet, shrugged into his jacket, and rolled out into the storm. Rain soaked him instantly, plastering his clothes to his body, blurring the world into streaks of light and shadow. Streetlights flickered as he passed. Water surged around his tires. More than once he thought of turning back, of how easy it would be to blame the weather, the roads, his past. But then he saw his brother's face, 12 years old, laughing, afraid. Help came too late. Mark twisted the throttle. Police had set up barricades along the main road, but one officer waved him through after a brief look at his face. Something unspoken passing between them. The bike cut through floodwater and debris, headlights punching forward through the darkness. This wasn't about redemption. It was about not letting the past decide the ending again. When Mark pulled up outside St. Catherine's, security stiffened. Leather, boots, the low growl of a motorcycle engine echoing in the emergency bay. But Elena was already there, badge visible, eyes locked on him. "He's with us," she said firmly. Mark removed his helmet. The rain steamed off him in the fluorescent lights. Inside, people stared. Some judged, some feared, some simply wondered. Mark didn't care. They led him to a small room. He sat, rolled up his sleeve. The needle slid in. As the blood flowed, Mark stared at the ceiling. Don't waste this, he thought. Please don't let it be too late. In the ICU, machines beeped faster, then steadied. Daniel's blood pressure rose. Oxygen levels improved. The numbers climbed slowly, stubbornly, like a child learning to walk again. The doctor blinked at the monitor. "We've stabilized him," he said, disbelief softening his voice. Sarah collapsed into a chair, sobbing into her hands. Hours later, Mark stood to leave. No speeches, no recognition. Elena stopped him in the hallway. "He's going to live," she said. Mark nodded once. His throat felt tight. Outside, the storm was easing. Rain softened to a drizzle. The city breathed again. Daniel woke up the next morning. His fingers twitched. His eyes opened. He whispered for his mom. Word spread quietly through the hospital. Not of miracles, but of choices. Mark rode home as dawn broke, sunlight glinting off wet pavement. For the first time in years, the weight on his chest felt lighter. He didn't become a saint. He didn't erase his past. But somewhere between the storm and the ICU, something shifted. Because hope had arrived that night. Not gently, not cleanly, but roaring through the rain on steel horses. And it proved something the world too often forgets. Sometimes the people we fear are the ones who show up when no one else can. Sometimes second chances don't come wrapped in forgiveness, but in action. And sometimes saving a life saves too. If the story moved you, subscribe for more real stories of unexpected humanity. Because kindness can come from anywhere, and second chances save lives.